Happy New Year. Has there ever been a more hopeful New Year's wish before this one? I certainly haven't. This is the year we all hope it's going to be a happier New Year. 2020 was definitely a year that made all of us pivot just to survive. For some, it may have worked out well, but for most of us, I'd say there was some damage done. um, that pivot is good to make us pivot at times, to make us have to adapt and maybe find a better way, a more efficient way of doing things. Overall, though, I think the damage is clear. Financial damage to personal health. It's experienced by most, um, and the limited, regarding personal health. I mean, the limited activity, closed gyms. Many were shut inside, not even going to work, not have normal activity, not even basic recreational activity. Routines were completely destroyed. There was, for some, not even a reason to get up and get moving. It was lost. There was more time spent eating, snacking. We had more impaired sleep from, staying up late, watching Netflix, or, binge watching garbage in many cases, things that we really wouldn't have normally spent the time watching, spend our time that way. If we would have been more productive with our time, under more structure, with a better schedule. And then just the increased personal stress, the unknown, what was going on, not sure what we were dealing with. And all of those things take a toll on us. And unfortunately, many people are still in that situation, obviously. Little has been resolved. A little more is known. Little has been resolved. Not much has changed. It seemed like March took forever. It took 3 months. And now the fall seems to have, for me at least, scooted by very quickly. 3 months felt like one. But again, there's a lot that's still out of control. The situation is still very difficult for most people. And our external factors out of control. How we respond is our choice. There's a lot of things that are out of our control. There's a lot of things we don't have a choice in the matter. How we respond is still our choice. And not that there's an ideal choice to solve every problem, but regarding our health, okay, we all decide what we eat, when we go to bed, how much we move. We make those choices every day. They may have to adapt, to change, to adjust, but for the most part, we make those decisions every day. And if any of these areas are out of control for you right now, I want to encourage you to take charge of them, and take charge of them right now. I'm recording this on New Year's Eve. Looking forward to 2021, kicking off here. While a lot of things haven't changed, we have to be able to make this decision to take charge of these areas. And there is no better time. There's a reason why this is so cliche. There's a reason why people make these decisions for their health, or resolutions regarding finances and time, relationships at this time of year, because it's a time of renewal. It's a time of reviewing, looking back and saying, what could I do better? And where do I want to focus my attention to improve? While, as I said, a lot of these areas are out of our control, we can control how we eat, we control when we go to bed, and we can control how much we move. So starting with managing these areas that you do have control of, can empower you to move forward in other areas as well. So this can give you kind of your pushback. This is your pushback against the madness that has disrupted our lives. We can't control what the government decides to do. We can't control sometimes what our employers end up doing. There's just so many things beyond our control. We have to manage what is within our realm, within our reach. We cannot let those things go. And that has happened for many people. When it felt like everything else was out of control, we allowed, in many cases, these areas that are still within our control to just be unmanaged because our schedule was disrupted. It was taken from us. Our routines were taken from us. What we believed to work, and we thought it was a temporary situation at first, and it just kept going and going. And it's still here. So we cannot wait for things to be changed, to turn around, to go back to where they were. And if we do wait, will it ever happen? I really believe when you take charge of your health, it sets you up to take charge of other areas of your life that are out of control or that need management, need better management. And so it empowers you. It's a consistent plan for your health not only makes you feel better physically, but again, it gives you that sense, that confidence. You have more mental clarity. You have more energy to move forward, not only with your health, but in all these other areas. And to even have the creativity, improve creativity because you feel better and you feel better about yourself. Improve creativity to move forward and accomplish something new, maybe to make that pivot you need to make in your career, in your business, to make things work in the current situation rather than waiting for things to go back the way they were. But if 2020 has kept you at a standstill on your goals, and most of us basically had to look at our 2020 goals and go, well, I guess that's not going to happen, right? Well, guess what? It's time to move forward, to rewrite those goals, to figure out a new way to get to them. But you can't wait for the government and the health agencies, obviously, to make it safe for you. I mean, look at our nutrition guidelines. They gave us for the last 40 plus years that have only made us fatter and sicker, right? Increasing all forms of metabolic disease. We have to know they don't really have our best interest as a priority, right? If they're giving us this information, it's still bad information that is shown to not work. Yet that's what they continue to give us. So let's not count on the government. I mean, to fix these things, we have to take control. We have to take charge of this. Look at the new dietary guidelines just came out. New dietary guidelines for Americans. They come out every 5 years. They're just released. And there was a scientific advisory committee that advised USDA to reduce the recommended limits on added sugar and alcohol. I think the recommended limit on added sugar is like 10% of total calories. So added sugar, that's not like if there's sugar in an apple, that sugar, or there's sugar in, the glucose in rice or whatever. We're talking about added sugars added to a food, additional sugars other than what's naturally occurring. 10% is the current recommendation. And there's a scientific advisory committee that said, hey, this should probably be reduced looking at, the disease rate in our country. We have the University of North Carolina, UNC study showing that 88% of Americans are metabolically unhealthy, right? And metabolic disease continues to increase in this country and around the world. Sugar is certainly a driver of that, but they didn't take the recommendation. They did not take the recommendation to lower the recommended amounts below 10%. Now we need to understand that the Nutrition Academy, which is who creates the education for dietitians, right, and directly connected to the USDA, they get their recommendations from the USDA and the Dietary Guidelines. The Nutrition Academy is sponsored by PepsiCo, General Mills, and ConAgra. So basically, processed food, sugared beverages, sugared sodas, breakfast cereals, all sorts of garbage we don't really need. Processed food, the things we're trying to avoid. And those are the industries. Those are the corporations sponsoring the nutrition guidelines, the people who deliver the nutrition guidelines and create the education that goes out to medical professionals and nutritionists, dietitians who certify them. The USDA also has food contracts with those same companies that they provide to provide food for our military, schools, hospitals. I mean, there's hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions, wrapped up in those food contracts from these corporations. So you can imagine there's probably some influence there with our guidelines. There's a quote, in case you're wondering, about whether or not those industries have any influence over our nutrition guidelines. Just in case you aren't sure, there's a quote from a USDA rep, which just now, since the guidelines came out in the last week or so, that regarding that the industry influence, and basically said, to the extent that the stakeholders provided input about whether the science was being properly reviewed, we took that into consideration. So basically, stakeholders being the people they have contracts with, the people who are sponsoring nutrition guide, advisory committee, Nutrition Academy, excuse me. They wanted to make sure, those stakeholders, the basically people with money, whether the science was being properly reviewed in reflection of any changes to the guidelines, and they took that into consideration. Basically, they considered the people holding the money. Isn't that interesting? They're considering, yeah, I'm sure they could say they considered our health as well, but that they even consider input from processed food manufacturers, that food industry, in regards to our nutrition guidelines. I mean, there's only one answer for that, and it's money. The American Beverage Association, which represents Coke and Pepsi, actually urged them to keep the limit at 10% of total calories. And so, from what I understand, they were quite happy with the result. So guess who probably shouldn't be happy with the result? You and I, right? So if you're ever meeting with a dietitian or a medical professional who is making these recommendations based on the standard nutrition guidelines, like 6 to 11 servings of starches, carbs, and then meats, way at the top with very little meat, very little saturated fat, but get all these grains going. It's 50, 60% of your calories coming from grains. Maybe ask them how they feel about the food industry influence over those guidelines, and about Pepsi and ConAgra and General Mills sponsoring their education. And then I would personally gather your things and leave, because they're not going to help you. They're of no service to you. They're going to, and if you're diabetic, they're just going to, find somebody who can work with you to get you off of those medications, who can help you reverse those diabetes, because they're just going to give you enough insulin to offset the carbs they're recommending that you eat. Kind of circular. Basically keep you in that state for the rest of your life, progressing into that disease for the rest of your life. So ultimately, the responsibility of your health begins with your choices, with the biggest factors being what you eat, how much you sleep, and how much you move. Right? Pretty basic. Those are the three most influential things over your hormones, for the most part, for most healthy people, over your metabolic hormones, okay, and how much fat you store, where you store it around your organs, organ function, okay, hormone function, what you eat, how much sleep you're getting, and how you move. And if you get these three areas in place, your metabolic hormones, for most people, will realign pretty quickly, a matter of weeks, and allow you to start burning fat for energy. Now, if there's areas that have been out of control for you, then I recommend start writing these goals down. And by goals, I don't mean, write the goals down. You need a plan to get to those goals. But goals isn't just losing 20 pounds. That's something you want to do. But a goal, an actionable goal, something that you're going to do to make that happen. Okay, I'll give you an example. A goal would be an actionable goal, okay, that you can measure on a daily basis, is, say, getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep each night, or eating 2 or 3 meals a day with no snacks, or making sure you're going to work out 3 times a week for 45 minutes to an hour each time. Those are actionable goals. Those are goals like, I'm going to do these. And then you can check those off. Like, I accomplished these things, these tasks. And accomplishing those goals is going to get you to where you want to be. But the goals should be things you can do each week, things you can take charge of and say, show where it's obvious you did something to move you forward and to keep you consistent, because that's what it comes down to. It could be limiting carbs to 80 grams a day or less. That's a great goal. Things like that where it's measurable. Your goals are measurable. How well you have accomplished those goals. It's measurable. The long-term goal, maybe lose 20 pounds, but you need short-term goals to get you there. And actions that you can do that will keep you consistent over time. Basically, lifestyle habits. You're changing your lifestyle. You're taking charge of your lifestyle. So not short-term quick fixes like a 30-day reset or some magical 7-day juice cleanse. I'm not saying those things are bad in and of themselves, but if you rely on them too much, if you rely on them to do the heavy lifting for you, to make some sudden great change like a magic pill, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You don't need a short-term action plan or a short-term fix that's 7 days or 30 days. You need actions. You need changes that you can stick with and you can accomplish, and they don't overwhelm you. They can put into your schedule, into your life on a regular basis throughout the year, with minor exceptions where you have to adjust for a holiday or a vacation or something happened at work, or, we've all experienced them this last year. If there's been an upset of something, a disruption of your schedule, we've experienced it, right? But things that you can do that will keep you in a routine of health to take care of you. Like, creating boundaries and reminders like we do for work, right? We create boundaries. This is when I have to work on this. This project has to be done by now, this time. We set reminders. We get alerts for meetings, right? Do the same with your health. Set a sleep schedule. Make a reminder alarm to, that alarm means go to bed. That means turn off the TV, whatever you're binge watching, wrap it up, go to bed. And avoid habits like avoiding blue light and alcohol. Blue light from, like the screens, right? Your phone. Don't take your phone and your iPad to bed. In fact, avoid them. So maybe start wearing some blue light blocking glasses or something, 2 hours before bed. Avoid drinking alcohol 2 to 3 hours before bed because it can disrupt your sleep. Determine your meal times that work with your schedule, and plan ahead if you need to prep the food. So it's not a surprise, or it's not like you suddenly need the food. It's time to eat and there's nothing around it, or you only have bad options around, right? And get rid of the tempting foods, get rid of the snack foods, get rid of the stuff you've got hidden in your bag, in your car, in your desk. Get those things away from you. Get rid of the foods that tempt you. Get on a schedule, 3 meals a day. That's it. No snacks. Put workouts on your schedule at the beginning of the week. Say, I have this day open, this day. Stick with it. Stick with your schedule. Put them in your schedule. Stick with it. That's how you get everything else done. So it makes sense to, if this is a priority, you plan for it. You schedule for it. If you're not willing to plan and schedule when you work out, when you eat, what you're going to eat, when you sleep, then it's not a priority. It's not important enough to you. That's the truth, right? Look at your checkbook, look at your schedule. That's where your priorities are, where you spend your money and how you spend your time. That's your priorities. So if it's a priority, it's gonna be in your schedule. And if it helps, get an accountability partner. Get somebody who maybe is in the same boat, or maybe who has this down and is doing it already. There's someone you can check in with, confirm with that you're completing, these things. You've completed your workout. You finished your workout for Monday. Hey, man, finish mine. How's yours go? Something that keeps you on track. You get some level of encouragement and reinforcement, positive accountability, positive reinforcement for taking these actions, for putting these things in place. Don't be too proud to do that. It's helpful. Right now, we all need positive reinforcement to do good things and to make changes. We have a lot of negative information coming at us, right? We have a lot of negative forces trying to disrupt our lives and disrupt our health. Reinforce your positive changes with the schedule, with accountability. Find out what you need to make it happen, because all that counts is that you make it happen, right? Put the boundaries, reminders in place, make it happen. Um, there are some simple tools, um, and that you create the structure. I mean, these are all simple tools. I mean, reminders and alarms, and but you create a structure, create a system to make it as easy as possible for you to follow through. And that's what you do. It's kind of like, if you're going to work out first thing in the morning, you got to, you know, what you're going to wear, the gym clothes. Put those clothes out in front of you. So when you get out of bed, that's the first thing you put on. Your shoes are there, your shorts, whatever it is you're going to put on. That's what you do. It's not you're reaching for your phone to start checking email. If that's your first priority, get up, put on those clothes, put on the shoes, get some water, get your, you know, activity tracker on, set yourself up to succeed. Put the structure in place. Put those, so it's as little decision making on your part when it comes time to do those things. There's as little decision making on your part as possible, because you've already made the path. You've already put the structure in place, and you're just walking it out. There's less temptation to veer off. So, what could a meal plan look like, right? So, I mean, in my opinion, leveraging protein is probably your best bet. Okay. And I'll explain what that means, but you want to keep it simple. You got to make it work with your schedule again, and make it easy enough to stick to. So let's start with meal frequency, because most of us have probably, you know, our schedule's been blown to bits for the most part. So meal frequency of 2 to 3 days a week, that's probably been overrun with snacking, or maybe your homework because you're working from home, or it's just stress eating, right? Schedule's off. You're eating when you can. And that may, your schedule might still be a bit fluid, but you have to reduce your meal frequency to 2 or 3 days a week and get rid of the snacking. Okay. That's your first step. So you actually eat real meals that get you to the next meal. You really don't need more than 3 meals a day. And the snacking is just getting in the way of you burning fat, because it elevates insulin every time. So, and if you can eventually, you know, skip breakfast now here and there, just have some coffee or tea, and compress your eating window into, you know, that 8-hour window where you know, between 12 and 8, you're just having lunch and dinner, and that's it. Awesome. Perfect. It's great. Whether you do it a couple times a week, 5 days a week, make it work for you. If it's something you want to do, walk it out. Start with 2 or 3 days a week. Really, I'd start with 3 meals, no snacks, and get that down. Then try skipping some breakfast, 2 meals a day, 2 or 3 times a week. See how that works. But it's a great way to improve your fat burning metabolism, get yourself tightening up, especially if you're trying to lose some weight. Improve that fat burning metabolism, get the hunger hormones to settle down, get insulin levels low again, so you start burning fat. Get the schedule in place, and then you start prioritizing protein. So really leveraging protein to create that satiety, that sense of satisfaction. You really don't feel like eating much else. Really, the snack food, the junk food, because you're satisfied, you're hungry, you're not chasing it. I had some women. Okay, let's put it this way: some women are hesitant about eating a lot of animal protein, like meat, fish, eggs. It just doesn't feel whatever feminine. Maybe they think it's going to make them bigger, or it just doesn't sound appetizing or fun. And I understand that it might be a bit of a stigma, that maybe they think it makes them look less feminine. I had 3 very recent guests on my podcast that were all women who prioritize protein in their diet on a very large level. And they recommend it for their clients as well. They work with clients, whether weight loss or just trying to, you know, they're athletes. The first was Diana Rogers, who's a registered dietitian. So yeah, she went through the Nutrition Academy education, knowing it was bunk, knowing it was garbage. But she got the certification, and she's come on the other side. She just produced a documentary called Sacred Cow on the benefits of regenerative farming. and definitely works with clients one-on-one and in groups as a dietitian. She recommends a gram of protein per pound of body weight, or per pound of ideal body weight, depending on your situation and your goals. Um, Michelle Hearn, who is also a registered dietitian, and she was named the number one female athlete for a 6-hour event by Ultra Runner magazine. She's an ultra runner. She runs about 80 miles a week just for her regular training. That's a lot of training. She also recommends 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. I know she personally eats 2 to 3 pounds of meat per day. So if she has 2 meals, she's a pound per meal. A pound at lunch, pound at dinner. She has 3 meals, and she probably eats a third. But most of the time, it's 2 pounds of meat, usually beef or lamb, maybe ground beef, ground lamb, depending if they fix something else. But that's kind of her staple, with maybe about 60 or 80 grams of carbs for recovery after long runs, long workouts. So she has longer days and shorter days. So she's not eating 60 or 80 grams every day even. So there's probably days where she just has 2 or 3 pounds of meat. That's it. Or a minimal amount of carbohydrate intake. But her longer days, her bigger recovery would be 60 or 80 grams of carbs with, well over, I mean, if you figure a pound of beef or lamb is going to be about 100 grams of protein, she's easily getting 200 grams of protein a day, weighing a lean 137 pounds, training, running 80 miles a week. So if you weigh 150, you're talking about a pound and a half or so of meat to get about your 1 pound per 1 gram per pound of body weight. May sound like a lot because you haven't been doing it, but you can work up towards that. Start with a pound. Start with a pound a day. Rebecca Farmer, the third woman I want to mention to you, she was actually at 27 years old, living in the ER, weighing just 69 pounds, diagnosed with 10 different autoimmune diseases, celiac, Hashimoto's. I mean, she'd had C. diff 3 times in a row, a digestive bacterial infection. She just couldn't put weight on. She couldn't keep anything on. She weighed 69 pounds at like 5'6", 5'7". She couldn't put weight on. She's going to die. Her doctor told her she may not live past 30. They wanted to remove part of her colon and put her in a feeding tube. She's like, that's not the answer. And so she changed her diet in the hospital dramatically and was able to start putting weight on, primarily eating a carnivore diet, so meat-based diet. And she also recommends starting with about 1 gram of protein, animal protein, per pound of body weight. She's now lifting weights. She weighs about 130 pounds, no sign of autoimmune disease because of this diet, which she owes to this diet, this elimination diet, which got rid of a lot of the foods that were, and it basically allowed her body to heal and turn her life around. And she's also health coach, coaching others, helping them through their problems with this, through their health problems with this diet. Now, again, you may not be able to go to that level right away, but if you start with a goal, like I said, of 1 pound of meat per day, and work up to that, and then go from there. See how you feel. But again, when you eat that much protein and the naturally occurring fat that's just with that meat, right? With these foods, you are, and get all the other nutrients, the micronutrients that come with that, because meat is very micronutrient dense. Lots of vitamin A, all the B vitamins, iron, zinc, selenium. I mean, it's just packed with vitamins and minerals. And eggs as well. Eggs, great one. Meat and eggs. You won't be that hungry for processed food, for the things that are actually hurting us, for the things that are actually putting weight on us, that are also very detrimental to our health, for inflammation. You'll be a lot less hungry for processed food, sugar, snacks, all those things that are actually really bad for us. Now, if you want to add in some non-starchy veggies to that, or if you're working out a lot and you feel like you need some carbs for intense exercise recovery from that workout, then manage that. Add some carbs in, but try to use whole food. Use things like potatoes or sweet potatoes, or If you're okay with grains don't bother you and you want to do a rice or a quinoa, that's on you. Figure that out. Figure out what works best for you. But start with the protein, add in what you need on top of that. If you can digest vegetables well, great. Some people don't. If eggs work for you, great. Substitute some eggs in for some meat. Okay, about 6 or 7 grams of protein per egg. So if you want to substitute about 30 grams of your protein intake for the day with about 6 eggs or 5 eggs, excuse me, you can do that. But try to keep it simple. Don't overcomplicate it. Keep your carb intake to about, maybe 100 grams a day or less if you need to lose weight. If weight loss is your goal, definitely should be 100 grams of net carb or less. Okay. And give yourself about 2 weeks to adjust to the diet. Like I said, you don't have to ramp all the way up to 1 gram per pound of body weight in the first week, but start increasing it. Let your stomach get used to it. Let your concept of how to eat get used to it and see the benefits, feel the benefits of the satiety, and watch as your body starts to burn fat. Your waist starts to shrink. Okay. Those areas where you carry fat start to lean out. But again, give yourself time to adjust. Give yourself 2 weeks. This is not an instant fix. This is a long-term change, and find your variation of it. But understand you're going to have to manage the carbs. You're going to have to figure out which veggies are easy for you to digest and which might irritate your stomach. But prioritizing that protein and find the things that you like to eat with that. And then you'll find a way to be creative with it, but keep it simple to start with. Now, one thing that can happen with this kind of diet is you can lose some water weight pretty quickly. It's not uncommon you lose weight. Some people say, "Oh, you're just losing water weight." They try to discount it like it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing because higher insulin levels and higher sugar intake will make you retain more water. This is why many people have high blood pressure with their bad diet. And it's not salt, it's the sugar and the higher insulin levels causing the kidneys to retain more fluid. So as you change your diet, you're going to lose some fluid. It's going to come off of you, but it also is sometimes a little more difficult to keep water in your system. So you're going to have to, it might help you to add some electrolytes. Definitely add some salt. Don't be afraid to salt your food. Some people put salt in their water. They just have a pinch of salt here and there, especially if they're haven't eaten for 12 more hours. But just as you go on this low carb diet, some people get what's called the carb flu, or sometimes they call it the keto flu, where you might have a sign of a headache or some lethargy, some dips as you get adjusted to it and your body starts burning fat more efficiently. Well, sometimes that can be triggered by low electrolytes because you've lost all this water. And so salt and added electrolytes can help you retain that water, make you feel a little bit better. Many times it really is the sodium. So I use some unsweetened electrolytes added to my water for like around workouts when I'm fasted, or in the summer when I'm just sweating more, because eating this way, I don't hold a lot of water, and the water that we have, generally that we buy doesn't have a lot of electrolytes, naturally occurring electrolytes in it. So a little extra sodium, magnesium, potassium, chloride in a powder without sugar, thrown in some water here and there, really can help keep that in balance. But as you make this adjustment, I think it would help you in making the adjustment more smoothly. Okay. So I use a Relight, which is made from Redmond salt out of Utah. It's a great pure source of salt. But there are other, of course, unsweetened electrolytes on the market that you can find. Just avoid sugar. Make sure it's something you can just throw in your water, shake it up, drink it as you go. You'll feel a lot better. But that's just a little side tip for you to overcome that carb flu, but also long-term to keep some fluid on you as you start leaning out and start losing weight. Now, with regard to exercise, 2 to 3 resistance days, workouts a week, that's good. That'd be a good place to start. And not that you need to go beyond that a whole lot, but start with, as far as changing your exercise routine or adding in some exercise, you're going to get the most benefit from, as far as time to value, from doing some level of resistance training. Okay. I'm not saying a 3-day split bodybuilding workout. I mean, if that's what you want to do, great. Or you can just do some circuit training. Just do something that creates some moderate or even intense level of stress for your muscle. That's going to improve your insulin sensitivity. It's going to wake up those muscles and cause your body to start storing fuel there. The more fuel you store in the muscle, less you're going to have to store in your fat cells. And it's just improvement. I mean, it just strengthens bones and helps you add stored protein, the muscle, right, and the bones, and improves your overall energy level because you're storing energy in those muscles for later use. So I would start with trying to get some resistance training in 2 or 3 times a week. Then if that feels comfortable, something you can maintain when it feels maintainable, add in some cardio, either right after that or at a different time, whatever works best for you to accomplish it and get it done. That could be, 20 to 40 minutes of cardio, whatever works. Again, whatever feels right to you. But just start doing it. It's the action of being consistent with it. Okay. It's not about being perfect. It's not about doing as much as possible all at once. It's about what you can maintain. So start with the resistance training. If you can add cardio at some point here and there, a couple days a week, that's great. 2 or 3 days a week, fine. And then try to get some just regular low intensity activity. It could just be walking, could be out for an easy bike ride or some yard work, taking your kids to the park to play with them, just recreational movement, just not sitting in a chair, right? If that's possible, get away from the computer, get away from the car, and just move, just circulation. Okay. It's not intense. It's not something that's going to keep you from recovering. It just moves fluid through your body, right? Just moves blood and can level out your blood sugar a little bit. But the main thing is it's just movement. It's just good for you. And just being consistent, something you can be consistent. And that is the hardest part. So schedule in the resistance training and then layer in the rest as you can handle it in your routine. And so there is still plenty of obviously chaos remaining from this last year. Only you can take charge of this area of your life though, and start moving forward. No one can do it for you. You can get help, you can get coaches, you can get accountability, but you have to spearhead it. You have to take charge. You have to make the decision to do it. And you're the one that's going to have to put the right, the food in your kitchen, to schedule the time and get to the gym or go to your garage or wherever it is you do to do your strength training or your exercise. You're the one that has to put yourself to bed to get enough sleep. It's not about having everything perfect. If you wait till you have everything perfect or everything is in perfect alignment or everything works out perfect at your job or things settle down, that's not going to happen. It's never going to be perfect. It's not even going to be close to perfect anytime soon. Let's be honest. So start with a few basics, put them on your schedule, and just start moving forward. Don't let the desire for perfection or desire for everything to be as it was or back to normal get in the way of your progress. You don't know when that's going to happen. And you have no control over a lot of it, but you do have control over this. So take control over this. Take control of what you can manage. Move forward. Again, not about perfection, not about doing it all at once. Take on what you can maintain right now. Layer it in. As that gets easier to do, layer in some change. Just keep layering it in until it's a progression. Okay, it's a practice that you build on. Now, if you think you'd like to have a better understanding of the lifestyle changes that I've been talking about, I have created a course. It's called the Metabolic Makeover, and explains how to, explains why it works with your metabolism, why it works with your body, but how to walk out, how to implement the changes from 3 meals a day, what that looks like, to maybe some intermittent fasting. Gives you some meal examples, gives you some examples of some circuit training workouts. So it has some PDFs in there you can download to have with you for reference, but it walks you through a course of me just kind of explaining how this works. And if that's something you think would be beneficial, there'll be a link in the show notes. You can always reach out to me at zane@zanegriggs.com. Happy to send you the link. But it just gives you takes these concepts into more detail. And sometimes knowing that and having the understanding of why these things work and how they work with your body and why they work better than another plan, or why these things are healthy, despite what the nutritional guidelines might tell you, why these are better for you, why these concepts or this lifestyle is better for you, then, and that will help you with compliance, then this could be a good course for you. So it's called the Metabolic Makeover. Look for it in the show notes again. I've got some of my social media on YouTube, should be in there in the link. And again, reach out to me if you need to, if you can't find it, zane@zanegriggs.com. But whatever you do, just get started. Just start moving forward, because it starts with you. It's not going to happen without you. Pick one thing to change and change it. Even if you do that each week you pick one thing to change, whether it's your eating schedule, I'd say start with that, and sleep schedule. And then exercise, in my opinion, might be the last thing you add. Because you start exercising with a bad diet or your schedule's off, guess what you're going to get? You're going to get hungrier. And then you're adding fuel to your out of control dumpster fire of a diet. Okay. So let's get the diet in place, sleep in place, go to bed. Try to get at least 7 hours of sleep. Get on a meal schedule without the snacking, layer in the quality of food, then your exercise. If you change it once a week or every 2 weeks to get used to it, that's progress. Okay. Not perfection, progress. Move forward. Take charge, take control. You'll feel better about yourself. And I think you'd be surprised at what else you find, other areas where as you do this, you start feeling better and being more creative, better slept, having more clarity and more confidence, because you did take charge of this area. You're empowered to better manage other areas of your life, or to find a new resolution to a problem that has come up, maybe through no fault of your own, but it's something that you can do better in a different way. And I truly wish you a happy New Year.